So now let's welcome Zack to the screen. Hey, Zack.
Hey, Katie, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thanks for
Awesome.
joining.
Yeah, I mean, thanks for inviting me to be here. So yeah, I mean, like who do we have in the audience? Looks like we have the Founders Academy design class, which is really cool. So a bunch of people doing website design and stuff like that.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, we really
Awesome.
want to. We're really focusing on, of course, Founders Academy joining us live, and then there's other. I would say like other classes and other instructors that are going to be referencing the recording videos for this as well. So we
Awesome.
definitely will ask questions as they come up.
All right, awesome. Yeah, so I'll just kick it off. So here, I'm not going to share my screen at first, but I'll probably jump into it. But like a little overview about me. My name is Zack Mattor. I've been in the kind of tech industry for like the better part of the past decade, probably plus a couple years. And like I've really been focused kind of on just like building really cool stuff, and that's kind of like been my kind of like driving force behind this is just like being really engaged and excited to kind of just be able to like build things, like kind of regardless what that is. Like the technology kind of almost comes second to me, just because like I really want to be kind of designing and building something that kind of like makes sense for people to use. And like, so that was like kind of like my driving force to kind of like get into the industry. At first, I kind of was going to school at NHTI for electrical engineering, and then I kind of swapped over to software engineering, and I took some classes at like MCC, and so like my background is kind of diverse in the sense of I've done like a lot of different things in my history, but I've kind of landed like in the software world, kind of building stuff. So jumping up to like currently, I'm currently the a team lead on the platform side of this company called Minim. And what Minim does is basically we do a lot around Wi-Fi within the home. So I think everyone has internet connection at home because that's how you're all joining here. And like kind of like how that whole system works kind of fascinates me. And it's something that people really don't recognize as being really something that really exists. It's kind of transparent to a lot of people, but as soon as it breaks, that's when people like start focusing on it. Like, oh yeah, like why is my Wi-Fi terrible? Like it's all the service provider's fault. And basically, what we're trying to do at Minim is trying to provide insight and utilities to basically manage this new utility that everyone has, which is Wi-Fi. And so like with that kind of intro out of the way, I'm just going to jump into a little screen share just around like kind of the Minim product and kind of what we do. Katie, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So I don't really have slides kind of present ready, but pretty much what I'm going to talk about is just like a little bit about like what Minim is, what we do. Then I'm going to go more diving into my background and kind of how I got into the industry, because I really like kind of trying to encourage people to join the industry in high tech, which is kind of the point of this whole I think this whole program. But it's definitely been like not a savior for me, but like it's kind of what I latched onto in life and kind of like ran with, because you can do anything with technology regardless of kind of like the industry you're in, which is kind of what makes me really excited about it. Like if you're really excited in like clean energy or something like that, like you can find something within high tech to kind of like pursue that, everything from web design to like marketing to kind of product development and design. So anyways, at Minim, I joined Minim 4 years ago. I was part of the first hires. It was me, the CTO, the CEO, and basically in like two other developers. And we kind of just sat down and kind of derived a concept of what this company kind of has become today. So it's been like a pretty exciting road. I definitely prefer like early stage startups, which is what this is. And so later on, I'll talk about kind of differences between like startups, which are kind of exciting, to like more stable kind of corporate jobs and kind of the benefits of each. But anyways, at Minim, basically what we do is, as I said, is we provide basically Wi-Fi routers to the home. And part of that is we have a whole solution set around for the end subscriber and kind of the operator behind the scenes trying to support your internet. And so like some of the different things that we offer are a mobile app, and kind of like just we pitch that we will make your Wi-Fi better and like more of a utility for you, and we'll make it work for you versus kind of the other way around when people kind of fight for it. And so like just a quick overview of the mobile app, and like UX design is like one of my passions. I'm not going to say I'm good at it at all, but kind of for all the people kind of in the website design class, like user interaction design is definitely extremely important in like all things tech. Because like, you can have the best technology behind something, but if it's not usable for your intended audience, like it's not going to be like easy to use. And so like no one's going to want to use it. So we try to make everything very simple, a very concept or very like complicated concepts such as Wi-Fi, we need to kind of simplify down so that like, like our grandmothers can use it and, stuff like that. People who might not be as current with tech as a lot of like the younger generations nowadays. And so part of that is we provide a mobile application that kind of pairs with our router. And we have a whole bunch of different security features, a whole bunch of different whole home filters for like blocking adult content and stuff like that. So as you can see here, some different screens in the mobile app are basically like the home screen kind of gives you a nice overview of your home network, how many devices you have connected, kind of what's going on at a high level. But then you can dive down into each one of our like kind of like product pillars where we have our security, we have our full home filters, and we kind of have like insights into a given device on the network. And so like, as you can see, we have a bunch of different features around the mobile app. We try to make it part of like the user experience design as like you have your signifiers and your affordances, and like you want to be able to like let people know what they're going to be clicking on, and kind of like have a sense in their head of like what that button's going to do for them. And so like with Wi-Fi and like kind of like the abstract concept of internet, like we need to kind of like simplify that down so that people know what they're doing. And so part of that is like we've I forgot to thank Jim Wilcox, the previous presenter, but he was talking a lot about AI and all that kind of stuff, and that's like a very fascinating industry. And so some of the stuff that we do in terms of AI is like IoT fingerprinting. And so the concept around that is like, oh, if you're going to be interacting with your network, you need to know what devices are connected to your network. And the way that you do that is like based off all these packets flying through the router, based on like all this internet connectivity, like who you're connecting to, we can basically determine what kind of device that is. Like, is that like this example up here is kind of small, but like, is it a Nintendo Switch? Is it a gaming console? If that's getting used, we might want to give that a more connectivity to the router than like, let's say like a smoke detector. Like, so there's all this really smart things you can do once you know what kind of device it is. And so that's one of like our core features is being able to like using AI, using heuristics, basically figure out what's on the network and kind of like optimize it for like your setup, because everyone's connected home is different. And then scrolling down a little bit, like the other big pillar that we have is our security center. And so like that's basically like, you have all these devices in your home. Some of them you might have gotten on Kickstarter. You might have like an IoT controlled rubber ducky that your kid plays with in the bath, and like it blinks red if if something's happening, or like everything now is internet connected. And a lot of these Kickstarters basically, they sell a batch of product and then they never update them again. So like they start being susceptible to all of these threats, all of these issues that could happen from that. And so one of the things that we do at Minim is kind of our origin story is we kind of come from Dyn DNS, which is another really big company that was in Manchester. It ended up getting acquired by Oracle. But our founder is the founder of Dyn DNS. And so Dyn DNS back in 2017 got attacked by this really big botnet. And what a botnet is just a bunch of these IoT devices like these rubber duckies, or like such as like a thermostat, or these other things that might not be patched too often. And basically all those devices get this malware on it, which then can talk to some like command and control server, which could tell them all to like, oh, like try overwhelming this server. So like this big distributed attack from all these people's homes were attacking, Dyn. And so what happened is like Dyn got taken down for a day. And like the causes, or what that kind of happened on the internet was like that took down like parts of, I think, like Twitter, Facebook maybe, and like basically a lot of people were using Dyn as their DNS provider, which is like basically a server hosting environment for like domain names. And because of that, like it took down Dyn, and like Jeremy was like, oh, how could this happen? Like we need a better way to like kind of secure people's home networks, because that's where these attacks originated from. Like it could be like your home with your smoke alarm, is part of this global attack that you don't even know about. And so part of that, part of our core feature set is the security center, where we are monitoring what's happening on the LAN and across our network to try to detect and isolate these events. And then scrolling down a little bit, basically, we provide a lot of utilities. It gets a little bit less interesting here, but we basically provide a bunch of utilities to service providers around kind of their fleet of devices that they deploy. So like we're basically selling to service providers. Like think of like Comcast, but a lot smaller. Like there's a bunch of smaller internet service providers in the US that have like 5,000 and below customers. And so like a lot of those are our customers, where we white label our solution for them. We give them all these tools. We give their subscribers access to our mobile app. stuff like that. And so we provide them a bunch of kind of utilities in more of a nerd view, as I call it, for their techs to be able to like diagnose more kind of in-depth issues within the home. And that's kind of everything that I wanted to go through, at least in terms of the product. But like an interesting thing to talk about is like I know we have the design class here today. I'll just stop sharing. I know we have the design class here today, and part of one of the interesting things is we have these two personas, right? So we have the end user in the home, and then we have like the service provider. And so like kind of like catering your content and your copy and like kind of how you perceive them interacting with like their network are like completely different. So you have to like take all that into consideration with the design of a given product to a website or whoever. You need to like know who you're marketing to and like who's going to be the user of the app. And so, just like an interesting anecdote of like, we want to make the mobile app as easy and as like simple as possible, but the care portal, we want to open up a little bit more knobs, a little bit more insight into kind of the more nerdy details around it. And so like, that's kind of like Minim and like kind of our background a little bit. Are there any questions like up to this point? I think next I'll probably dive into more kind of like my history, how I got into tech, and kind of like more of like the background and history of stuff, but I'll give it a little break for now.
Yeah, no, there's no question. Oh, actually, there's one question in the chat, so good timing. What was your favorite class that you took in high school that impacts your career today?
Oh, of course, it's from Marlena. Yeah, I mean, definitely in high school, I guess this is a good kickoff actually into what I wanted to talk about next, was just kind of like my background and kind of how I got into all this. Because in high school, I guess I wasn't like misguided, but like I definitely like didn't really have like that thing I wanted to latch onto yet. In terms of like my mom would always ask me, oh, what do you want to do when I grow up? And I was like, oh, I don't know, play video games or something like that. And so like honestly, it was first robotics was really what did it for me. First Robotics is a program that basically allows students to join a team, which is basically a full engineering team, to create robots to go compete in events worldwide, which is very cool. It actually started here in Manchester by Dean Kamen, who owns DECA. But so it wasn't really a class that kind of motivated me in high school, but it was kind of like that program was like really what I latched onto and really what kind of like drove me forward with that. So hopefully that answers that question.
Yes, thank you.
Awesome. Yeah. So I guess like going back to like my kind of history and like kind of with that, like it all kind of did start with that, and like even through that whole thing, like I was like, oh, like there's a lot here. Like it's very overwhelming getting into like the tech industry, because like there's endless options around like what technologies to use. Do you want to focus on the front end and back end? Kind of like what Jim Wilcox said in the previous presentation was like, he kind of started off with like more of like a wide breadth, full stack kind of mentality, and then kind of he found his kind of focus, and like he can still leverage all those full stack skills today, being a consultant. But as I think he mentioned, is like a lot of people kind of focus on one thing here, maybe one thing there. And so like at first I was definitely in that same boat where I didn't really know what I wanted to do at first, and that's totally fine in the tech industry. I don't think there's honestly any wrong answers to kind of get into the industry. And so like at first I was just like, I was dabbling here and there. Like I've always loved just like making and tinkering with kind of technology, kind of regardless of what it was. Like even to this day, I still work on like little side projects on the weekends, but that's kind of like how I originally got into it, was like, oh, like I want to make this little thing to like mess with my friend and, install his computer, nothing malicious, but like, little fun things here and there. And like kind of stuff around that just kind of like caught my engagement a little bit. And then I got my first internship kind of after I got into college. So I actually did go to college. I got into Nassau Community College at first for electrical engineering, as I said. And like even through that whole process, I was like, I don't really know if I want to do electrical engineering. I kind of like the software side, and like my teacher kind of pushed me in that direction a little bit. And so like I ended up dropping out of that program, getting into a software program up in Concord at NHGI, which is a great community college. They have a lot of programs around tech. And so like I was there for 2 years. I ended up getting an internship at a local company up here. And I did a bunch of like kind of like database stuff, help desk stuff, still just like getting my feet wet. But because I had this experience just like kind of creating stuff and kind of like poking at stuff here and there, I was very interested in kind of like that concept of stuff, is that I kind of got into doing a little bit of software here and there. I was like, oh, like I can automate my job a little bit. I could send these emails on an automated report on the weekends versus me like compiling them all and sending them out manually. And so like that kind of like really, I kind of had free reign there a little bit, which a lot of times you do if you're in like a position where like, you're doing kind of like a mundane task, but you can kind of like find out how to automate it with software. It's very, very kind of cool, like in a lot of cases, and just like how do I make people's lives easier? And then like after like that, I guess I'm not the biggest advocate for college sometimes, because I did drop out of college because I got that internship. I was not a great student. Stay in school, but like definitely that's one of the interesting things about the tech industry, is that there's so much need for stuff. Like if you can like get your foot in the door somewhere, like you can just fly with it. And so like there's a lot of boot camps that are spinning up. I don't know too much about the Founders Academy, Joanne, so I don't know if you could like post something about it, but like I don't know if that's like a college or just like a little program that people go through, but like there's a lot of these boot camps spinning up like here and there. So like let's say you did get through a program at it's a high school. Okay, got it, thank you very much. It's like, let's say you did get through like a program like at high school, and like you're going through this web design class, but you're like, oh, I really want to learn more about like X, Y, or Z. Like not everyone is like has the funds or like has the means to like go to like a 4-year college, which is there's a lot of amazing 4-year colleges in New Hampshire and Massachusetts. Dual credit class with MCC. Oh, that's awesome. So yeah, like the community college system in New Hampshire is probably like my favorite like kind of program in New Hampshire, just around because they make it so affordable and so accessible to everyone. And like a lot of high schools are doing a lot of these like transfer programs into dual credit and stuff like that into those programs. But like, like a lot of times people are like, oh yeah, like I wanted to take a few years off after college, and never really end up doing that. And you see more and more people coming in through these kind of like boot camp programs where it's like 8 months and like, you'll at least get kickstarted in the right direction for a given like programming language or something like that. And so there's all these alternate, and like it's very accessible now is I guess what I'm trying to say. And even for like I'm someone who like I love teaching myself a lot of things. So like, and just like now, because the whole internet is kind of made by people kind of like me, like so all this stuff is publicly available for the most part. Like what Jim Wilcox was saying as well is like, even like at Microsoft and like at all these different like programs, like a lot of stuff is just publicly accessible. And if you are a student, you can access a lot of the stuff for free, which is amazing. And even after you get out of school, a lot of like these open source initiatives and programs are completely free for people to use. It's like if you actually do have a passion and like really want to teach yourself and not go through a program at all, like that's a completely fine way to do it. One of the people on my team actually is like an English major, and after he graduated, he was like, he got his like master's in English, and like after he got out, he was like, you know what, I kind of want to learn a program, and like he just taught himself, and then like a year later he landed his first like junior like web development role. So like it's so accessible at this point, and there's so much need for jobs and stuff like that. Let's see, any other questions come through? No, doesn't look like there are any yet. Okay, cool.
I have a quick question for you, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure.
Sure. So for students that are in high school or college that are watching these recordings or participating now, what are some good tools that they could use to kind of get their foot in the door learning a coding language? I think my mind immediately goes to like some kind of like an online course. Could you speak more about that?
Yeah, I mean, there's like, as I was saying, there's a ton of online resources now. Like some of them cost a little bit of money here and there. Like like Khan Academy is a really good one. Like there's a lot of really good like online programs. Like if you just look up what you want to do, but a lot of times it's like, oh, how do I choose what I want to get into? Like, there's like front end, back end, there's servers, there's DevOps, there's like all these buzzwords kind of flying around. And I guess just like kind of ask yourself the question of like, what do you want to make? And like, what are you kind of interested in? Like, do I like data? Do I like numbers and spreadsheets? Am I more of like a financial person? Like you might be better off like looking at like databases and like that kind of stuff. But if you're more like visual and like more graphical and like the design part better, like more of like the front end kind of like HTML, JavaScript, CSS kind of stuff. And then like JavaScript is a really good language to start off with now because, you can basically do it anywhere. Like it runs in the browser, it runs on servers, it runs pretty much anywhere. And so like learning that as like a good first language. I know my first language was PHP, which was, it's still, I think, the most popular language on the web. But like, just like find one thing and like, just like poke at it a little bit. If you don't like it, just try something else. Like don't feel too discouraged or overwhelmed by it. Like just jumping into something like you won't, if you learn one thing, it's not going to be knowledge that you can't transfer elsewhere.
Awesome, thanks. And then one more question before I let you dive into the rest of your chat here is just what advice do you have for somebody that's looking to get into the tech industry? I know you talked about, getting your foot in the door. Like, how would you go about that?
Yeah. So like it kind of depends on your background. Like, I think a lot of things that people complain about a lot of the time are like when they're looking at job descriptions, when they're looking at like job postings are, like 2 years required experience for like a junior program, like an entry level position. And like, what, 2 years? Like that makes no sense. It's an entry level position. And I hear that like every single day almost like as a hiring manager. And we no longer put that like on a lot of our entry level positions because it's not so much like 2 years like experience professionally, but it's like 2 years just like tinkering and like doing stuff like that. Like they just want to prove that you've been like at least learning this stuff for 2 years. Like it's not like 2 years professional experience for an entry level position is like really what they're looking for. So just like having something that you can show and like learning how to sell yourself is probably the most important piece. Like being confident and like how you can do that is just basically like talk about your interests a lot and just like try to steer the conversation in the way that you want to go at interviews. Is at least like kind of like my take at it. Like talk about like your side projects, talk about like the stuff that you've worked on in school or on your own, depending like what your background is. Like if you did go through a boot camp, talk about like your boot camp experience, talk about like what program you created through that process. Or like if you're like kind of a self-starter and like you've kind of been tinkering on your own stuff, like show your projects you've worked on. Like that's what they're looking for. That's kind of like the best way to kind of like put you above like your maybe even other people who like, oh yeah, I went to a 4-year school and that's kind of like my background. Like it's like, okay, cool, but like what have you done? Like so hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. I think, showing that you're passionate about your topic or you're passionate about what you'll be doing in the job, even if it's not a 1-for-1 match, is really important. So thanks for that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, let's see. Do I have anything else on that topic? Like just some of the stuff I've done is just like, I mean, I can show off something here. Like, see, you can see this this light here that I've made, and like, I really like kind of like not light shows, but kind of like fun little things that I've made, like literally gluing together popsicle sticks and throwing in some LEDs and stuff like that. And then, I built a little app to kind of to program them so I can do like different animations and stuff like that. And just like little things like that, just like maybe it's just because I'm a nerd or something like that. But just like creating really cool things is kind of like what really got me into this kind of industry. As I said, like the technology came second. I was like, I want to make something that does this. How do I do that? And I feel like that's a good way to kind of like pair your career with your interests, if that makes sense. So like basically like another segue into like the tech industry is just like find out what you're passionate in. Like that could be video games, that could be like skydiving, like who knows what your passion is, or skiing. Any one of those industries has like startups or software or something around it, like either marketing apps for ski mountains or websites for ski mountains. Like kind of pair what you want to do with like your passions, like regardless of what that is. Like you can pair tech with anything. And it just so happens like I also really like the tech side of it, but as like a designer, like you're opening up yourself to be able to kind of do anything. Also, sorry if you can hear my puppy in the background. Let's see, is there anything else I wanted to talk about? Wait one sec, sorry. All right, yeah, so we just got a puppy beginning of the year. Let's see, are there any other questions? I guess I don't really have too much more I wanted to cover.
Yeah, I have a few questions that I am more than happy to ask you.
Okay.
I love hearing people talk about what they're passionate about and would love to hear more. So right now you're leading a team of fellow technologists. What do you see as like next for yourself in your career? Like how are you determining your stepping stones?
Oh boy, it's a tough one. I've been very like a lot of people are like, you should define your 5-year goal and like do all that stuff. Like I'm very bad at that. I'm better at just like kind of going with the flow. And I think Jim Wilcox said something similar where like it kind of like organically grew with him. Like, like he found that like he was very passionate about like technology and like kind of like it kind of just like takes you for this ride if you just follow your passion. And so like, but like, you can define like these goals for you. Like my goal was never to be like leading a team per se. Like I just wanted to like build really cool stuff. And like when I was talking to kind of like my boss at the time, and he was like, well, like, like you yourself can build really cool stuff, but imagine like what you could do if you like, you had a whole team of people building cool things. Like, you could just achieve so much more. And like, it's more about like growth and success of like your team and stuff like that. So like, I've kind of like at first I was kind of the guy that was like, oh, I don't want to like be leading people. I don't want to be like a manager. But like, I guess like after like it kind of was spun for me in that way, like people think like the boss is like, the guy that walks around and, tells people what to do and stuff. But it's almost the opposite. Like you're just making sure that like people aren't blocked and like all this other stuff. Make sure everyone has like the resources they need to like be successful and stuff like that. And I feel like if managers kind of follow that mentality more, like I feel like people would be a lot happier like on teams and stuff. But as for what's next, I guess I don't know. Like I've always been very entrepreneurial minded. Like I like building things. I like doing that kind of stuff. So like maybe in the next 10 years of my life, like maybe I'll start my own company. Maybe I'll try to find something to do. But in the near term, like just Minim has been so much fun. Like kind of building that from the ground up. Like previously, like I've had like my success and my failure stories and stuff. Like Minim has definitely been so far like a success. Like, we're growing. We're up to, I think, 80 people now almost. We just publicly merged with another company. So like it's been like an amazing journey from like the start of it. But like the previous company I was at, Adored, was, I guess I did actually have a note to talk about this, but it was like kind of like a little bit of a lull in my life because like it was all like the growth and the excitement, but then like it came crashing down when we like kind of had to close our doors because when I had joined, like the company had just raised like $2.5 million. Like they were hiring a bunch of people, me included. And like, we had a mobile app that we had that we're using to for small businesses on like main streets to be able to kind of promote like what they're doing that's really cool and like kind of stands out from other local small businesses. And like, we got like thousands of users. We went through all the ropes, but then like we ran out of money and it's like, oh yeah, we've kind of forgot about that money piece. And so like, we were going around trying to kind of like raise money, like in, either from like venture capitalists or like raise another seed round of funding. And we ended up like it not working out and we had to like, fire everyone or I guess not really fire, but lay off because, we had to fire ourselves too. But like, so like that was kind of like, and then like literally like the next week, like, because like that was also kind of like in the Dyn ecosystem, kind of Jeremy was like, hey, you guys want to start up this new thing, Minim? And so, I kind of like kicked off running again. So it's kind of like a really big, like speed bump in my career, but it's worked out.
Very cool. A couple other questions for you. The first one is, does your company offer internships for high school students?
I guess traditionally we haven't had any high schoolers, but that's not because we're not accepting high school interns. But we're basically taking anyone we can get in terms of like if you're passionate, if you're excited to learn, if you can show that you're kind of like a self-starter and willing to like kind of like hit the ground running and learn. We're definitely looking for like interns like at the company always almost so.
Awesome. And then the second question, same topic on internships is, does Minim traditionally have interns at any level? And then what do you, outside of like that passion and excitement, what do you generally look for when you're looking to hire interns?
Yeah. I mean, I guess part of it goes back to like just kind of being able to sell yourself, like just showing that you're passionate about it. Well, I guess to answer the first question is like, yes, we're always looking for interns, always looking for new talent as we're growing. And internships are like a great way. Like we're very passionate about interns, like giving people the opportunity to come in, kind of like really jump in. Like, we don't really give interns the task of like, oh, go make us coffee and stuff. But, it's very like hands-on actual coding work, actual design work and stuff like that. So definitely always looking for people.
Awesome. Very cool. As a fellow Dyn intern, that was a big thing in my career. So highly encourage internships for anybody listening.
Yeah, we definitely like, I think almost half our team, I think, has been intern, at least all the junior, like half the junior people we have are all coming from interns. So definitely all about like bringing people in that way.
Awesome. And then the final question for you is, what's the biggest difference working for a startup versus a larger company?
Oh, awesome. Yeah. So like when I was in high school, I had an internship at like BAE Systems, which is like a really big DoD, like Department of Defense kind of company. And it's a massive company and it's a government company. So you had to like check all your dots and, or whatever that saying is. But like, so it's a lot more slow. It's a lot slower, a lot more methodical. Not all big companies are like that, but you'll typically see yourself kind of be very focused on one task. And it's all about the process in bigger companies. Which is a good thing in a lot of aspects, and some people thrive in that environment. Not me. So when it comes to startups, like you're wearing a lot more hats, you have a lot more breadth of what you're going to be doing, and a lot of those processes aren't in place yet, or they're very loose. And so like you have to work to kind of like optimize and kind of figure out like the workflows and then try to implement those across the team and stuff like that. So it's a lot more like fluid and in my mind, like more fun, because you kind of have like more creative freedom in kind of what you're doing. But it's also, more volatile, right? You might not have a job in a year if you're working at a startup. So, which is what I found out the hard way with Adorn.
Yeah, that's definitely understandable. And then final question here from Joanna, apologies, is what is the lowest age and grade that Minim would consider for an intern?
That's a great question. I guess it doesn't really matter if they're good. I mean, I think like the legal requirement in New Hampshire is 16 for a job. So I don't know. But like, I guess like, as long as like they can show that, they're mature enough to work in a professional setting and, they're willing and eager to learn, like in kind of a self-starter. Like we don't really have like a ton of resources, which is another difference between small and big companies, is that like bigger companies have a lot more resources in place to teach and kind of like handhold. At smaller companies, it's a lot more kind of free form. So like, we will basically throw stuff at you until you're not necessarily drowning, but like it's more exciting, right? Like you're working on real stuff. And so like just being able to show that you can be able to learn and like that you've engaged in a lot of like these activities kind of like on your own time, so that you can show that you've kind of learned and kind of taught yourself a bunch of things in the past. It's kind of what we're looking for.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Zach. I think we are just about at time, but I wanted to thank you so much for coming on and chatting with us today. I know that the having you live and then having these recordings of these sessions is going to be super helpful for people looking to get into technology. And it was great to hear about your experiences.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, thank you very much for having me as well. And if anyone wants to like ask any questions, like my email is just zack@minim.co. So feel free to like reach out to me on there. Or hit me up on LinkedIn, which I think you can just find me by searching Zack Mattor or something like that. But yeah, have a good day, everyone.
Thanks, Zach.